It's Maydad here from Y&V Health and Wellness. And tonight I'm joined with a special guest. Now, before I tell you a little bit about this guest, I wanted to share with you about last weekend's retreat that we ran right here at beautiful Bondi Beach. It was my retreat, the half-day retreat called the Footprints Retreat. Now, in this retreat, we both all started at 5:45 a.m. at Bondi Beach and was just before sunrise. So it was still a little bit dark, but we started off with a yoga session with the beautiful Emmeline, yoga instructor, and she guided us through breath work, through meditation, through human movement and yoga. And it was a really cool session to be in touch with nature amongst the beach with a cool breeze running and watching the sunrise come up. We then concluded the session and headed up to Bondi Boxing Gym, where we all participated in a functional training human movement session, boxing session workout, and that was really enjoyable and lots of fun. At the end of that session, all the participants were served healthy meals from Up South Cafe, where the meals were catered for us by their award-winning chefs, from vegan meals to gluten-free meals to healthy chicken wraps, and obviously healthy squeezed fresh juices. Once that was over, the participants were huddled up to a neural transformation therapy session by myself and a very empowering vision session, which allowed me to share part of my trajectory and what my Footprints retreat embodies and is really all about. And part of those statements that I shared with those people was that some people come into your life for a season, and there's other people that come into your life for a reason. And it is those people that come into your life for a reason that impact your life, where they create a great connection with you, that you are able to take everything on board and lay down your own footprints for others to follow. So when you are no longer here, those people that you've made a connection in your life will go on and lay down their own footprints for others to follow. And it was a really good retreat. We concluded the retreat by doing ice baths and plunges and infrared saunas up at Nimbus Health Centre on Bondi Road. And we ended up the session with some acai bowls and detoxing smoothies and a motivational talk. It was really cool. And since then, I've had lots of texts and lots of phone calls from the participants telling us how much they enjoyed this half-day retreat and how much they're looking forward to the next one. So without any further ado, let me introduce you to our next guest for tonight. He's a health and wellness coach and been working in this industry for a long time. He's a hypnotherapist, a life coach, a timeline therapy coach, a massage therapist. He's done so many things. He's also worked on radio, and I'm going to leave it all up to you. He's Wayne Ness, that's his name, who's going to be sharing with you all tonight. Wayne, welcome to tonight's session. It's been a minute since we've talked, haven't we?
It has,
It
yes.
has. Great to see you. Look, there's so much we're going to be talking about tonight. I want you to just enjoy yourself and share everything that you feel comfortable with tonight. I wanted to start by first asking you to let us know or tell us a little bit about your journey before becoming the great coach that you are.
Okay, well, I've come from a farming community south of Perth, a place called Newdigate. That's where our family was originally. My uncle has a farm down there. My father sold the farm, and my mother and father went into selling harvesters and had a service station down there and that. Moved back up to Perth for a little while. My father drove trucks up into the northwest in the early 60s, and eventually we went up into visit Port Hedland about 1964, 65, spent a bit of time up there, came back to Perth, and then Dad and Mum decided to move up to Port Hedland. We moved up there in 1967. We were living in a place called Pretty Pool. They had these old shelters and that. The women and children, the town was still in its little infancy of its boom, and we lived in those shelters up there for several months. And then we were lucky to get one of the first houses up near the hospital in town. So that was the start of 51 years in Port Hedland in the Pilbara. So it's a pretty exciting time. Um, My father left that job as a truck driver and he became the local funeral director, and he also had a bus service, so a bit diverse there. And over the years, the business grew. We went to school. I had a sister, then a brother, and then two more sisters. And so it was a bit of a turbulent time at the time. Dad had been encouraged to visit the local hotels, and it became a bit of a disruption in the life. So when I was 10, Mum and Dad had their separation. So we went through some times of turbulence. Bit dysfunctional, I suppose, in the time. And that's, I suppose, what started motivating me into different things. I spent a lot of time by myself. There was a lot of time I would spend on the beach thinking about things, and I found that there were certain abilities that would come along, and I thought, what's going on here? And it's taken me a long journey to find out about all that because I think there's been so much distraction in my life that I've never really focused on it. But in the years when I was 17, I got an apprenticeship out the airport. I worked there for 8 years, and then a family had built a roller skating rink entertainment centre. I went and worked there as the manager. Moved on from there to radio. That's when I became the breakfast radio announcer and doing advertising. That sold. Went to the shopping centre. In amongst all this, when I started my job, I started DJing and doing events. So I started doing all the functions we used to have on Friday nights. So I was doing multiple things in the late, I suppose, 90s. Things changed again. I went back into the industry as an electrician, not as on the tools, but I was in electrical wholesalers, and I moved through that and went into manufacturing. And then I lost my house in a cyclone in 2007. Mum became terminally ill. She was palliative care, so I looked after her for 5 years. Just got over that, and then my father had a turn. He passed away in 2015, and then I got black mold poisoning. So I had a bit of a run in health over the time, had a lot of health scares, and after the black mold, I decided to move. I moved out to new premises in a place called Wedgfield. I was doing my entertainment, my DJing. I had been looking at different aspects of the modalities of hypnosis and massage. I went and I had my massage certificate, so I was getting further into that. I also had the ability in the early days just to be able to reach teacups, tea leaves. I can also do the psychometry, but I didn't understand it all. And I wasn't in a place where I was getting that experience. So 2019 came along, the universe said, time for you to move on, and burnt everything down. And I left Port Hedland with a suitcase of clothes that my friends bought me, came down to Perth, and then I really started to discover my journey, really enhancing it from what I learnt. My first encounter, we were talking about hypnosis. My first encounter was as a young lad of 17. I met a gentleman by the name of Eric Huddleston. He was visiting Port Hedland doing hypnosis therapy and that. And my traumas in life, I wanted to go through those traumas and see what was happening and build on that. And I still had his tape that he made for me until 2019 in the fire. I lost that. So, but the thing is, it's the experience and the memory that we have that we can develop on. What's been has gone. It's not going to hurt us now. We just need to make sure that we progress, and that's what I've been trying to do. Over the years in my entertainment, I have been working with Matt Hale. He used to go up to the Pilbaries to do mine site visits, do live shows, Spano. Everyone's probably heard of Spano, the eyes that hypnotize. Well, I used to do shows for Spano with sound equipment, and I've been hypnotized by Spano and some other people over the time. It instilled into me. I was one of those people, people go, oh, you're going to be hypnotized, you're going to take control of me. I was one of those people, and yet I could be hypnotized very easy. So it was a bit of a learning curve, and I had to understand that you you've got to have trust in people. And I was fortunate that after the fire, I had people that I was able to put trust in and learnt that and further it down. And I had a lot of stuff come up to me on Facebook, come to coaching clinics and things like that. So I went and did a lot of those. I signed up to a whole heap of courses, got all this information, and I was still doing my studies. I was still doing my massages. And what I didn't realize is that in the massages, you actually use hypnosis within it. there's a lot of it into it because you're talking to the client, you're telling them to relax and all the rest of it. And you don't realize people just go into that trance and they go out. So I had unwittingly been doing it without knowing about it and didn't really understand it. So it was a very big learning curve. And when I got down here, one of those courses I went and did. I did a couple of courses last year after doing all these other ones and never really finishing anything. But I did the courses and I redid them again this year, early this year, and then it hit me. It really hit me. So now I can see what I was doing, what had been happening, and I understand the process. And now I use it on myself. I've started to use it on myself because I find it's a really powerful tool to do your thing. And people say, "Oh, what do you love about the work? What do you love about it?" The greatest thing about it is when you're doing a massage and there's a bit of Reiki involved and all the rest of it. When you're doing it, you're integrating, you're building up that energy and you're connecting with the people and you can feel it. A story that I had back in, I was probably in the late 80s. I went to a session where there was a lady who was doing card reading and also they did a regression session and we were doing a bit of on hand Reiki. Um, when we went there, I went down and we're going over the body and I said to the lady, I said, I can feel a spiral in your leg. And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, it's like you've got a corkscrew in there, I can feel it twist around. And she goes, no way. And I go, yeah. And I said, but I think I can undo it. And she's going, really? So I started doing all this little action. I don't know what happened. It just happened. And I'll never forget it. It was an experience and a half. And she told me she'd been going to people for the last 10 years saying that she had this thing at her side. It felt like someone had put a screw in her leg and she could never find it. So that taught me a lot about it. And that encouraged me to go further with all the stuff that I've been doing. And I find that it's encouraging that people have changed their thought processes these days. They're more open to a lot of the other side of the world other than filling your body full of medicines, and they're looking at the healthy side of it and using your mind and spirit. I had cancer on my face last year. I had radiation on the side here. I had a huge big red blob and I healed up faster than what they thought, a month faster. I came out of the treatment, started healing up, and they said, "What are you doing? What happened? That doesn't happen." And I said, "No, I've just go home and I think about it every night. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. I'm doing it." And they told me, "Stick with what you're doing. Don't go down the medicine trail because if it's working, it works for you."
It's
And
incredible how mind over matter, like with recovery, with goal setting and all that, really has a lot to do with success, doesn't it?
it
And
certainly does.
when we talk about visualization, and everybody's different in the way they visualize things, as you said, you're referring to your injury recovering in you were recovering at such a speedy rate from your cancer, and that I know myself when I did role playing for certain activities, certain sports that I was involved with, and that's a form of hypnosis. Mine was guided, that I was able to get a lot better results than I was in the past. And I think when I broke it down and look back on it, I think I really related to those experiences, to those moments where I was able to go over it and rehearse the race, rehearse the competition, rehearse the event. I was able to see things a lot better, and I was able to, if I could say, give birth to what I used to see up here to reality, and it became, getting a gold medal, at times a silver medal, at times nothing less than a bronze medal. And Wayne, I wanted to ask you, you got a fascinating story. You've been through so much. You've lived in so many different places. You've done so many different things, as you said, your radio, your massage, and events and all that. What made you get into becoming hypnotherapist?
I think it was more that first instance when I was 17. I was looking for answers and whatever, and it fascinated me. And going to shows over the years and listening and watching, there was a fascination and having my own like heart experiences and things as well. I couldn't understand how things work. It was What I've learned is you've just got to believe that that happens sometimes. Don't try and question it too deep. But I questioned it so deep, and I think so many things had happened in my life that I kept questioning stuff. No, it can't happen. It can't be real. And yet I would see it, all the rest of it. And I was experimenting in my young days. I used to work in the fun fairs and the circus, and you'd have people who would travel around. They'd be like walking around in the crowds, and they'd be doing all these hypnosis things and that. And when I was working, I used to work for Perry Brothers Circus and Lennon Brothers Circus when they came to Headland. And occasionally you'd have one of these people who would go around and do this stuff. They'd do card tricks and whatever. And it was all a hypnosis in essence because it would get you captivated. They would get your attention and do it. The other thing is that when I went into radio in the 80s, again, I learned much about advertising and how it worked. And it was all about hypnotic state, and especially in television when I did television work. There used to be a man called Max Headroom. I don't know, you ever remember? He was selling Coca-Cola with Max Headroom, and it would flash. And I did some research in that years later, and I found that that was all part of that. The sudden flashes, like the strobing effect and stuff like that, would get you. Another thing I learned is when I was working in the shopping centres about how we can do the suggestibility to people. In the shopping centres, you used to walk in, and many years ago, you'd walk in and you'd smell that fresh bread coming in, hitting you. It'd just hit you in the face, and you'd want to go down and buy all the
Bakery you walk
bakery.
past,
Yeah.
every bakery
Well,
or pizza shop today you walk past, don't you? The Indian shops, whatever. Especially if you're hungry, Yeah.
that's right. So the trick of the supermarkets used to they used to put cinnamon into the air conditioning, and,
Wow.
and it would put you in a bit of a trance because you were used to associating that smell with that food. So people would race down and buy all the fresh bread that was down there because they just had that craving because they essentially had a hypnosis experience. It was the suggestibility. It was done in a different way because with hypnosis we have different senses to be able to pick up things. And the smell sense was the one that they utilized, and they're very clever at it. And even today on the you used to go down, you'd look at all the adverts, and you'd see this can of cool drink open up, and you see all the froth come out of it, and there'd be another glass of ice. And go buy the can of Coke and go, where's my glass of ice that goes with it? That's what I want because you've been subjected to that
Image,
suggestion,
that visual.
and you want it. And when I worked in television and radio, it highlighted to me more in the sense of how you could do things like that. And when I was doing promotions in the shopping centres, it was all about getting the people in. And we used to have a wheel, and we used to spin a wheel, and everybody would just stand there and stare at the wheel, waiting for the winner. Again, you've got that hypnotic trance, you've got the back end, and it was fascinating and how people would come in their masses and just stand there and watch us. And I used to go, wow, how can I develop on this, and what is it really? And that was really getting me in deep. That sort of set me off. And
Wayne, that's really interesting how people don't realize that daily they're in a hypnotic state so many times. Maybe you can elaborate on that. The fact that a perfect example is my son is playing Xbox on the TV. He's hypnotized, he's fixated on that. Or, you could be reading a newspaper or reading a good book or playing an instrument or something, and you're fixated on uh, that moment. And people don't realize that hypnosis doesn't just mean you going under somebody guiding you or talking to you or getting you in a certain state. People are always in that state several times a day. Perhaps maybe you can elaborate on that and let our viewers know what hypnosis is.
so it's a suggestibility effect. What it does is you're allowing your body to go into a trance. So we have different levels of where we are. Like we're right awake. There's a place called gamma. That's when you're really excited and getting out. And then we go through different states as alpha, beta, and all the rest of it. So we get to a state where our body is, and the best way I can think of it is if you go to meditation and you sit there and you just back, you're in that trance state. You've put yourself into that trance state. So when we go to hypnosis with a therapist, what we're doing is we're working in unison with that person to provide those suggestions, because we're not able to do that because we're sort of relaxing, and we want somebody to give us some guidance. People see all the shows and people race out and cluck like chickens and everything else and think, oh, that's what they're going to do to me, they're going to. It's not. The suggestibility is there, and when you do get hypnotized, you still know what you're doing, but you just sort of you do it. It's a bit like the kids go and do that. They don't want to, but they go and do it. So I think that the thing to understand about it is it's a combined unison thing, and you are letting somebody assist you. And when we do hypnosis too, um, it's an agreeable thing. The suggestions, we don't just go, you're going to run us out in the street and all the rest of it. That's not going to happen. And your body is in total control. Your mind is in control because that suggestion's put there to start with so that you understand that you are in control. And there's some little tests that we do so that people feel that, and they can understand that they're there. So the myth of hypnosis is you're going to control me and make me run around like a chicken. The reality is that's not going to happen. If you run around like a chicken, it's because you want to run around like a chicken. And when you see the stage shows, people allow themselves to come in. You were talking about the children with the hypnosis, with the hypnotic state, with the games. They have allowed themselves to let that game take them. It says, you will do this, you will run into this dungeon, you will do that. They can snap out of it if something happens, or mum comes along and goes, oh, that's it. Let's turn it off. No, no, no. They don't want to break out of it because they're in a state that they're happy in. And that's what we try and do. We try and put people in a happy state and achieve some goals that they want to get, whether it be happy or they want to do weight management or things like that. There's so many factors you can use it into. Just relaxation. I mean, people go back and they put a set of headphones and listen to a track and they just roll off into sleep while they're listening. I did the same with the massage. I found the right tracks and people would be comprehendo within, 5 minutes, and they'd wake up and go, was I asleep? And you go, you were enjoying it so much. But it's first of all, having that relationship with the people, knowing that you can trust them. We can't trust a lot of things that happen to us out in the environment, but when you are in that environment, you know that you've got a trust factor and capitalize on it more rather than relying on some TV show to hypnotize you or some game to hypnotize you. Look at some of these kids that come out of those games and look what they do. They just run riot because they are basically in hypnotic state. They believe they're still in that state. So it is something to consider when you're doing it. But yeah, the myth, it's the mythbusters, as we would call it. You're not going to run around like a chicken just because you've come in here.
Wayne, when it comes to hypnosis, can you share with our audience uh, the different levels? You talked about alpha, beta, delta. Can you tell us what each mean, as we spoke about earlier on today?
So the first one is where you're awake, you're doing your activities, you're
Waking
uh,
state.
in a wake state, your generalization going around. The next one's in a semi-trance, and you might to give an idea of that is you might be sitting at home and you're just sort of dozing off in the chair. You might even be driving down the street, and then 5 minutes later you go, oh, where am I? You've gone past that. The next stage is where we go into the trance, and it's a sleep trance section, and you can come out of that quite easily. The next level is where you're in a deep sleep. You're snoring your head off, and you're just out. But your hypnosis, you'll find that there are some tracks and that they say, listen to it while you're asleep or play some background music while you're sleeping, because your body still does pick up external feelings. And you might wake up in the morning and go, did I hear the dog barking during the night? You've heard something. But the level that we sit is between that driving down the road where you might just doze off for a little moment and in your sleep mode. And it's a controlled level. It's a dual controlled level. You allow yourself to go as far as you want, and you accept that and make the most of it. And it is like a bit of a sleep. I don't know, have you ever been in a sleep pod? A
I
sleep
think
pod
I
is
have.
where
I
They've
think I
got
have once. I guess what you're trying to say, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're always in control of the state. It's safe, it's controlled. It's not as if like you're dozing off completely. You can hear clearly, you can function clearly, but you're kind of vulnerable in the way that you are guided, in the way that you are following certain vocal commands and that is guiding you to be in that state, whether it be talking about giving up smoking, losing weight, achieving a certain goal, or adding more structure to your life.
That's correct. So, as we were saying, you can adjust those levels, and you do adjust those levels. You might go into a light nap, or you might go to think, but it's a controlled state. You've agreed to that, and you understand what's happening, so you can allow yourself to go into that state. Sometimes people do go to sleep; they do slip down into that next level, but that's not a problem because you've already got that suggestion and to bring you out of it. And there's always suggestion we're going to wake, we're going to count through so that we make sure that the client has come out of that state. And then we do some discussion to make sure that we've gone through, they did hear the suggestions so that there's no fear factor. There shouldn't be any fear factor in there. It's very good for a whole level of things. A lot of sports people use hypnosis, and in the hypnosis we use different things. Partly with NLP, like we use anchoring to fire off suggestions, and we load essentially happy memories from a brain into a spot on our finger, so that we can touch our knuckle and we can feel those emotions. We just take a little bag and we put them all together and put them on that knuckle and we go tung. Same sort of thing. It's a bit of a hypnotic state because it
I was
takes you back to those memories.
I was actually going to talk about anchoring when you finished this sentence. You tipped on it, so jinx for that. But anchoring, I believe, is something that I use multiple times a day, and anchoring in the breath work to help me prepare for my work, anchoring by listening to a certain piece of music to just clear and reset, anchoring by humming, anchoring by gargling water, anchoring by having a little stretch. And I think I do all these little bits of anchoring throughout the day to really help me show up and be able to give the best of myself without feeling burnt out and that. And I think if I didn't do and use all this anchoring throughout the day, I think I probably would lead to burnout and fatigue because I have in the past. I've had chronic fatigue. I've had, as you know, I've had been, burnt out and I know what it's like. And it's not a good feeling. And I think, especially for anybody watching this back, understanding anchoring and how it works and being able to utilize it in different ways. Because if we use the same anchor every day for multiple and multiple times, we can get pretty bored of using that particular anchor. So whether it be music, whether it be breath work, whether it be just a little bit of stretching, or you could do it by reading a good book, but that could be your anchor to get you from point A to point B in the state that you want, especially when we talk about the flow state. Maybe you can share a little bit about the flow state, Wayne.
Um, I was just going to go back on anchoring there. One of the things I was going to say is if you look at a lot of sports people and that, they might touch your ear. They might have an anchor spot there, they just need that little boost. And touching that ear just gives them that little boost. It's a bit like you're thirsty and you want a bit of water. You go and get a water, and that just gives you that little boost. It's essentially giving you that little kick that you need to keep yourself inspired and running through. Um,
You know Sha'Carri Richardson, the sprinter. She's the African American sprinter, very well known. Uh, she's the girl that beat all the Jamaicans, lost to Jamaicans, and she's come back and beaten the Jamaicans again. I heard that her anchor is, when they're standing at the starting line behind the blocks, it could be something like shaking her arms or something like that. That within itself could be a little anchor. That could be a little anchor to get her in the mood, to get her in the flow, and to get her in the state that she needs to be to perform at her best. So I know we talked about anchoring could be touching your ear, could be touching your fingers and that, but it's also could be a little bit of a movement or another anchor, like a verbal one, uh, uh, a hum or a self-talk or something like that that could help you get in that state. I could be wrong, but do you think, have you heard of that before, Wayne?
Yeah, there's lots of different things, and when I've done the courses, they talk about that people have different ways of doing that anchoring. And of course, we're talking about the flow state. The flow state is where you're in a mental state where you're totally absorbed in that activity. So when you get so focused in things and you lose time and you lose, you're out there and you're playing tennis and whoops, that was supposed to be an hour, it's now an hour and a half, things like that. So our mind becomes absorbed in that little area. And the anchoring we were talking about can keep you energized in those sorts of things. Like we were talking about tennis players that might touch their ears and things like that. It's all about getting the momentum and embracing it, enjoying it, and making the most of it. But
Wayne,
people,
you talk about the flow state and anchoring and that. I know that recently, after having a talk with somebody who was sharing a little information about tennis players like Ivan Lendl, um, Rafael Nadal, Serena Williams, Venus Williams, Steffi Graf. When you see them in the back of the court, when they're like 5 games down to 5 points down to one, and it's a tiebreaker or something, or it's a chance for them to lose the whole game, and they've got to come back, and you see them in the back of the court, just with a racket, just tapping themselves and talking that self-talk that could be just tapping their knee with a racket or bouncing the ball a couple of times. That itself could be an anchor. That itself could be helping them get into the flow state that they need. So many athletes, sports people, musicians on stage, actors are using different forms of anchors to get into that flow state that allows them to be successful and do well in what they do.
they just go for it. They forget about time. They forget about everything else. They've just got a task, or they just want to enjoy themselves, and they get out and they just go with it. So your body is in a flow state essentially, and it's good when people get like that. I mean, sometimes we have time limits, and we've got to set ourselves a limit where we have an alarm clock go, or say our meeting's over and things like that. But when you're out enjoying yourself, just being in that state is so good. You're down the beach and you go, I've got the whole afternoon here, and you go, oh, what's happened? I've been here 3 hours. I've just had such a great time. But that's what we want to do. You've put yourself in a bit of hypnotic trance in a sense, and I'm going to enjoy myself, and off you go. So it's good value that we can do that. But I don't think that people understand how it all integrates. And I was one of those people. I was very much one of those people. How does it all happen? And why does this happen? And what is this? And all the rest of it. But the main thing is that it's not essential for the person to understand it all. The essential thing is to understand that people have control and they have the ability to put suggestions in their life to make their life better. And they can do those self suggestions. But as I said, sometimes it's better if you have somebody helping you with those suggestions, because it's like you go to the movie by yourself and you're sitting there eating your popcorn and you go, it'd be so great if I just had someone here. I don't have to be talking, but they're here, or we might exchange something, or share the popcorn. The same thing happens. It's about that relationship and that budding. And you'll see a lot of people as they get older, they miss that. They tend to separate and they're by themselves, and then they fall into a different state. And that's why when people come up and say, "Look, are you okay? Or would you like to go and have a coffee? Or can I buy you something?" It just elevates the mood straight away, because they're in a different state of mind. You've just lifted that state up. It's almost like you've just hit an anchor point and just said, this is happiness. Don't let it get you down. So I say to people, I've learned a lot of things out of life, and one of them is that if I see somebody there, I'll open the door and do things like that. What does it hurt me to open the door? What does it hurt for me to help somebody carry something? It doesn't. It's not a big thing in your life. And the reality is, what would you do in the meantime if you weren't doing that?
Yeah, that's such a great view, and it is, like it's something like as kids, you remember when you get on the bus, if you've seen someone older than yourself, like an old lady, you'd always give your chair to that person. Today, you just don't see that, and I
No.
don't know whether it's just sign of the times, but I think it's the way we were brought up. But Wayne, I know you have a lot of things planned for the future, including doing some stage work with your hypnosis. Can you share with our audience a little bit about that?
I have been fascinated. My friend Matt Hale, he used to travel up the mine site just to providing with the equipment of that, and I'd go to some of his shows, and he's so vibrant. And I've seen so many other people, like I was saying, Spano, the eyes are hypnotized, watch my watch, and but the I think that Matt Hale has been my biggest inspiration, and what I like to do is I went to Fringe Festival this year. I went and saw a whole variety of shows, and I got a lot of encouragement from people. And I would like to get to be at Fringe and having my own show. Matt's not doing them anymore, and I'd like to be the next Matt. I'll never be the Matt, but I want a version of a Matt in a different format.
You'll be Wayne Ness, the Wayne Ness, and it's really interesting because I think we get influenced in life by so many people, our mentors, our coaches, people that we look up to, like top sports people, top athletes, and I think everything that we do really is an embodiment of all of that. Our
Yeah.
parents, the way we were brought up, and this is you. Like this is all in you, in everything that you do. Wayne, can you tell us a little bit exactly about what your show is all about, and what people can expect when you do
You got
run
to
the
cluck like a chook.
show?
Yeah, that's it. The chicken's got to be out. I don't know. I've been thinking about it, and I don't want to be down the same path as everybody else. And now that I understand hypnosis more and the suggestibility and how people want to be part of it, you can get them involved in it. I'd like to. There's some ideas I've got on that I'd just like to just tweak outside it. You have the air guitarist, you do that everywhere. They're just routine things that you do at the pub and all the rest of it. I want to be a little bit different. And the problem with the hypnosis is that children at a younger level, you're not really going to get them into that mode. They're going to participate no matter what, but they love watching their parents be silly. So the idea is to develop something where the parents are going to do something and the kids are going to have a laugh. So that it becomes a family event, and then the kids go, "Ha ha, Dad, ha ha, I saw you, ha," and or Mum, something. So I think I'm going to be a little bit different in the sense that I'm going to try and bring that kids laugh at the parents instead of the parents laughing at the kids syndrome.
So bring a family to the show, call dad up on stage or
Yep.
mum, let them have a laugh, make fun of themselves and enjoy while doing it and have the kids laugh and say, "Oh, dad."
That's it. You were just talking about old school, and I remember old school. We talk about it all the time, how we do things. I don't like swearing on stage. I've at times you're in a crowd and whatever, but it's just one thing I can't do. Or was allowed to do on a radio. You had a dump button and all the rest of it. And to this day, I still can't. I can't even tell a joke with a swear in it. So I'd be hopeless as a comedian. But I think that. I miss the childhood days, and I also see our children these days growing up so quick. They're expected to be a world-class gymnasium by the age of 3. Um, we need to let the children grow up and experience life as it is. We did that as a youngster. We had a little bit more different exposure to having opportunities in going out in the wild and camping and that. Nowadays you don't, but we do expect the kids to go out too early. And I'd like to see the kids and the mums and dads have the fun times that we did have. We had a lot of laughter and all the rest of it. And now it's let's all go to a movie, or you go and play on your computer games while we go out here or do something like
Would you
that.
say that a lot of that family connection, look, as a father and a husband, I've only got 2 kids, but we're a close-knit small family. I think a lot of that has been lost over time compared to what I guess you and I were growing up. I know that my brothers and I would all go with our parents down to the beach. Mum would roll out a blanket, get some watermelon and chop the watermelon up, would make some sandwiches, would have like a barbecue or something. But today, families are not really doing that. Yeah, a few families are doing that, but most families, whenever the weekend hits, young Sally is out with her friends. Young Johnny is out riding his
Yep.
bike or something, and mum and dad are left to just be at home. Even dinners, Sally's in the bedroom having a dinner, watching TV. Johnny's on his Xbox having his dinner in his room, and there's no togetherness. I actually make it an effort to try and bring the family together at least twice a week and sit down and have dinner together, trying to find out what my son Jaden has coming up in his soccer, what my daughter Leilani has coming up with her dance, what's going on at school, what are we missing? And that way, Linda, my wife, and I can be a little bit more connected and just be involved a little more. And that way we can offer support if it's needed or just back off and just at least we know what's going on.
You talk about the bonding and that's an essential part of hypnosis as well. The very, very basic part of hypnosis is you've got to have a relationship with the people that you're working with the clients or the audience or whatever. And you need to build that. And the the stages of hypnosis is we're looking for personal development and making sure that we're in a better space and all the rest of it. So that bonding and those strong relationships in the very first part, when you're building those back in the home, creates a bit of that strategy already. It takes away some of that rebuilding that you need to do to try and recreate some of those things, because you've initiated the most important part, which is a rapport. If
You
you've
know,
got
you
that
know,
rapport is the most critical thing.
you know, agree with you 100% Wayne when you talk about rapport. I know as a trainer in the corner when a fighter comes back to the corner, I've told a few fibs, sat down and looked at the fighter with one round to go, and I've said to him, listen, how bad do you want to win this? And the kid would say, no, I want to win. And I said, no, how bad do you want to win this? You talk about building rapport, and all throughout the kid's career, I've developed trust, I've built rapport. I was there for them like a father, a mentor, a taxi driver, and you name the rest. Because I think the role of a coach is not just a coach or a teacher. Sometimes you become a father. Some of these kids come from broken homes and single mums living at home, and they come from a poor environment, so you buy them dinner, you mentor them, you guide them, you protect them, and you just give them a good outlet, not just by boxing, but just a shoulder to cry on. You're just there for them. And I think uh, I've told a few fibs when some of the fighters have come back to the corner where I've said, this guy's tired. He's tiring. Did you see him? Did you see him in the last 15 seconds? You got to jump on him. And then how bad do you want this? And all of a sudden, the fighter goes from being completely tired to completely ignited and he goes out and wins the round. And that's enough for you to win a fight. And, we don't realize, as we spoke about earlier on, so many times throughout the day, how many times we're hypnotized. We're hypnotized by seeing a fancy car, listen to a certain piece of music. Like I said, I hypnotize myself in so many ways throughout the day just to get through and turn up and be able to give a little bit better each time. Otherwise, come 4 o'clock, I'd be already burnt out. But that, I
Traffic,
mean, yeah.
I was going to say traffic lights are hypnotic. You pull up, you see red, you go stop. Orange, I have to stop. You see green, it's go. It's basically a hypnotic trance. The traffic lights everywhere you go, you see them. Red, stop. Orange, got to slow down. Green, you can go. That's essentially it. So we were talking about the hypnotic through the day. It's there. You fall into that trance automatically because you know that you have to do it. You see red lights on the back of the car. You go, oh, I must stop. I must slow down. It it's it's that suggestion that we've had over time through experience and through being told that we know we see the red lights. We've got to slow down. So when you talk about the hypnotic in your daily routine, I'm going to the shop. I need to eat healthy, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. I don't need that soft drink right now. Um, so yeah, we do. I think I've been thinking about the last couple of days because I've been thinking about my show. It's been on my mind, and I've been recording little bits, and every now and then I just jot down a little note. I've got a notepad in my car, and I just go, when did that little last hypnotic hit me? When did I go to the shop? What did I do? Did I hear something on the radio and I stopped and bought it? Did I smell something? What hypnotized me into that state?
I want to share something really funny with you, Wayne. But when I was doing competitive aerobics, I used to have all these routines that involved a little bit of comedy. And I'd do it aerial in the air like a shushanova, and I'd come down to the floor, and the music would just stop. And then I'd have my hands out, and you might hear this, and I'd pull my fingers in, and I'd hop up and go, and I'd like a little laugh or
Yeah.
something. And then I'd come up to this press and do like this press sequence, gymnastics press sequence, followed by splits, etc., and then go back into the routine and etc. And people used to say to me, "Where do you get all this stuff?" And I remember I used to sleep at home at night. In the middle of the night, something would come up, and I would hop up, write it down, think about it, go back to bed, and then maybe an hour later or that next morning, something would come up, and I'd write it down. And there were so many moments because this was so much on my mind. I was always in a hypnotic state of being able to be so creative in that. And I was always writing things down, and then I was adding music to it, sound effects. And before you knew it, I had this routine that was so creative and embodied everything that I had visualized when I was in my sleep or when I was at home sitting down. And I think it's beautiful to be able to, as I said before, give birth to what you have up here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the unconscious mind sits there and it's got so much information in it. And then we've got the conscious mind there, which is just seeing around us. It's only picking up little bits. And then all of a sudden, the unconscious mind goes, "Yeah, I'm going to give you something else to go. Remember this?" Boom, and off you go.
That internal dialogue is always ticking, isn't it? And there's
It
almost
is.
information that it's giving us. Wayne, it's been great talking to you. I know there's people out there watching this back that would like to know more about the topic of hypnosis and your services. If people want to get in touch with you now about some of the stuff that you do, is there a website, a Facebook page you can share, an Instagram page, or a number or something that you could share with our people?
I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook. I do have a Galaxy Promotions page. There's the logo. You'll see the logo on the page. On the other side. There we go.
And
Um,
what's it under? Is it Wayne? What's the
no, it just says Galaxy Promotions, Entertainment Specialist. So I had a promotional business. I was doing events and party hire. I was doing everything. But I'm taking the entertainment specialist off it now, and it's just got specialists. We're
so
specialists in everything.
so the word Galaxy Specialist?
No. So the word is it's two words, Galaxy Promotions.
Galaxy Promotions. So
So
that
that's
is
on
that what you use on your Facebook and on your Instagram?
Facebook and LinkedIn. You'll probably find me under LinkedIn under Wayne Ness. I think I'm under that, but you'll see me. I'm in one of my flary shirts doing it, and you'll see the reference of Galaxy Promotions come up. LinkedIn's very different. It's a different sort of contact. The I'm setting up a new Facebook page. After the fire, I lost everything, so I just put everything to suspension. I had to deal with my PTSD and so many other things, and I've sort of at that stage now where I've gone through these courses and redevelopment, upskilled, and got my mojo back. And I started adding my anchor points. I've got anchor points on both hands, depending on how I'm feeling now. So I hit my anchor points so that if I'm feeling a little bit down, I'll try and give myself a boost and get myself back in there. Um, and eventually I'll get the Instagram page up and that. But what I find is that I don't want to spend too much time on social media. I want to spend time on doing things. So if I contain it down to a limitation, then people know to go to one source. I've got a web page. We've taken it down. I got somebody tried to get in there and do some stuff. So I will have the website. The website is galaxypromotions.net. Sorry, galaxypromotions.au. So when that gets back up and running, but my Facebook page will have that. And I think keeping it back to one point, most people use Facebook. Somebody will know a reference of Facebook. If you Google it, it'll go to Facebook. It'll do it. And when I get my web page up, it'll have that on. And then I'll be sharing photos of our experiences and some other parts, and we can do activities or whatever. But I'm very diverse. I go out and travel a lot now. I'm doing a job during the day as well, so you could see me pop up anywhere. Who knows?
Amazing, amazing, exciting stuff, Wayne. Well, there you go, everyone. There you have it. Great talking to Wayne Ness, the hypnotherapist, and talking about the topic of hypnotherapy tonight. Great to have you here, Wayne. For those of you who are going to be joining us next week, don't forget to join in 7 p.m. Monday night. I'll be actually reviewing the retreat that we had last week and talking about upcoming events. I'll be talking about some programs I'm pursuing and some exciting things. Then the following week, I'm going to be joined with Bo Chi. And the topic that we're going to be discussing is hands-on. Chi is a qualified massage therapist. He's been working in the fitness and health industry for many years. I've known him ever since I've pretty much been working in the health and fitness industry and living here in Bondi. That's about over 30 years now that I've known him, even though I've been living in Bondi for about 47 years. But so I look forward to that and look forward to joining you next week where I'll be sharing information about our upcoming retreats and other programs we're running. Um, Saying goodbye for now from me and Wayne. Have an amazing week and take care and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Okay.